Hello. This is Dan playing Kerbal Space Program. I am looking at my science tree because I did a few flights in career mode, in a suborbital flight and then a orbital flight and recovery. And those completed 4 of the first basic missions, which gave me a whole bunch of science. I've unlocked up to advanced rocketry and basic science, which gives me, the basics I need to get to the moon. Moon, as I like to call it. My place is pretty basic, and I definitely need more parts. Gonna want all kinds of things. Flight planning. Oof, yeah. All these will be very, very helpful. Anyway. So yeah. I'm gonna start with a new vessel. Let's name this Moon. Let's just name you Moon Visitor. First and foremost, I'm gonna start with a cockpit. Cockpit. Alright. So, this cockpit also needs a fuel tank. And I'm going to be exploratory. I'm going to want some science. I'll build a science module. I'm going to want some experiments that I can run, like the thermometer and the barometer and the mysterious goo container. All of these give me more science. I'm going to want to make sure that I can recover this vessel really nicely, so I'm going to add in a heat shield and a coupler, so that when it comes to landing this, I can land safely and easily and survive my atmospheric reentry. So, this is all fine and dandy, but I have absolutely nothing to get me any thrust whatsoever. I'm going to want one of these little Terrier engines to give me my upper stage thrust. And so here I can see how much delta V this stage has right now. And if I open up my engineer tools and I look for vacuum conditions and show all of my stats, I've got a thrust to weight ratio of 1.41. As long as it's greater than 1, that means you can escape whatever reference body you're on. And of course, if I were on the moon, I would have a much, much higher thrust to weight ratio than if I were on Kerbal. So that's actually a very, very high thrust to weight ratio for my uppermost stage. So I'm going to want to make sure to increase my fuel capacity to make this have as much delta V as possible. Delta V is like our fuel capacity, how we get to places. Yes. I'm going to want to put some landing gears on this, just in case I feel like landing this vessel. I don't think this is going to land on the moon. It would not be a great candidate for a landing mission, but just in case I feel real ambitious, I could do that if I wanted to, and I'll leave that there. I'm definitely going to want some batteries for this because I have no solar panels. I'm so early in the game that I have not yet discovered the scientific breakthrough that is solar panels. I could actually afford it right now if I wanted to, but I think I'm just gonna go with batteries for this mission, and a whole bunch of them. I'm also going to want some communicators. I'll want an antenna so that I can control this from afar. Speaking of, I'm going to... I'm going to add a Stay-Putnik, a little device that steers and flies this by radio, by remote connection. So I don't need a pilot for this. Nah. Nah, that's a bad idea. I'm just gonna fly this with a pilot, and we'll keep this mission really simple. Alright, so I have a pretty decent upper stage, unless I want to add a service bay, which is a good idea. Open. There we go. I love the music in this game. It is very, very soothing. Alright, so how am I going to get this cute little derp up into space with a big frickin' rocket? I'm gonna want a swivel engine, and at a reasonable altitude I'll have a nice thrust-to-weight ratio and a good amount of delta V, so that's not bad at all. Okay. And then I'm gonna add some boosters. These boosters, I'm gonna set them off on their own stage. They have way... let me readjust these. And get some aerodynamics. Give you a nice little cap. That's cute. So it takes about 3,500 delta V to get up into a circularized orbit of Kerbal. Adding these stages up, at sea level we've got just over 11K, 1100, sorry, plus about 1,500 in our mid stage, that gets us a lot of the way there. And then I'll use in vacuum part of my upper stage. I'll want another 5 or so hundred to get me to the moon, and circularize around there. And then landing on that would be 500. That's going to be extra credit. I don't feel like I'm going to end up doing that. But I might be able to. If not, I'm definitely going to be able to return to Kerbin, drop off my rocket portion, and decelerate through the atmosphere. I'm going to want some more parachutes, because those are always a very good idea. A lovely idea. Yeah. And I wish I could fit another Kerbin in here. I'm not gonna, which is a shame, because scientists let me reuse these modules, which are very nice. You know what, let me just add another one of those science modules, because why in the hell not? That's awful. I don't like that. Let's put it back. Alright, so for a moon visitor, this isn't half bad. My main objective is to fly by the moon, and once I achieve that objective, I'm going to see what my next task is. It'll probably be orbit and return. Hopefully it doesn't ask me to land on the moon, because I'm only maybe capable of doing that, but we'll see. So, let's look at our crew. I have got Jebediah Kerman as the default pilot, and then there's, Bill Kerman, our engineer, Bob Kerman, our scientist, and my favorite default pilot would be Valentina Kerman, who they added in when they added gendered Kerbals. Hi, Summers. What's up? You can just talk. It's cool.
It's me and Jesse in chat. We're trying to Statler and Waldorf you.
Hi. Okay. No. So far, they call it. Make a joke. Clever. Sorry, I have not been reading those at all. I'm very bad at this.
It's called constructive criticism.
Lovely. Hi.
I'm just loving the delay.
Okay.
Alright, I'm gonna go back to talking to Jesse.
Sounds great. Okay, I don't have action groups. I can't do anything with that yet. So, I think this is really the best I'm going to be able to do. And I come in under parts and under weight, and let's see what we can do. Fix my staging. Those are all very awful choices. Let's do that. Save. Okay. And I'm gonna launch. Oh, it's dark, it's nighttime. Well, that doesn't matter, I don't even have solar panels at all. So yeah, here's Valentina. She could do like an EVA and like, well, she can't, she's not a scientist, so she can't do any of the experiments from outside, but I can turn on remote control steering and set my throttle to max and launch my first stage of rocket. Whee! So these are all solid rocket boosters. They cannot be shut down once they are started. They have no throttle. They're just at max the whole time. accelerating very, very quickly, as you can tell by the gusts. I'm going to adjust to, and as soon as this burns out, I'm going to change to the next stage. Oof. Oh dear. I'm going to tumble. Well, that's not good. And we're back. That wasn't too bad. Doop. Turn on my little light here. So that's my target right there, the moon. It's spelled M-U-N, U as in umlaut. I can switch to my map view and see where my apoapsis is. I'm pretty high up. I can probably steer more forwards. See, the point to get into orbit is most of your thrust has to be around the planet, not getting you up. You just need the minimum upper trajectory to get you out of the atmosphere. But then again, I'm almost out of my upper stage, my mid stage. So I'm just gonna burn hard and fast about midway between my prograde and the equator, or the horizon, rather. Okay, so there's the last of my mid-stage. I'm going to eject that and start up my upper stage. And I'm already in outer space right now, so I'm going to turn that off and check a maneuver node. I'm gonna make it do some math for me, figure out how much it'll take for me to get all the way up there. And it'll take 2 minutes, and oof, and I'm a minute away from doing it, so let's start now. All right, I should just about get into orbit. It'll take a good chunk of my upper stage. I will probably not have enough to land on the moon. That's okay. This is still a very early game rocket. Wherever did it go? Oh, there it is. Way zoomed in. Let's kick open some gears. That's no moon. So while I am having this orbital injection burn, I can switch my camera to the interior cabin. And here, Valentina can see her hands and look at her gauges and see her orbital velocity, and can even look out the window. And as we look out the window, we can rotate without affecting our steering and look around, and that is the planet, the dark side of the planet. And this is the, plane of rotation of most things in the solar system. Effectively the Milky Way galaxy. That's very pretty. And we should just about be, we've got a apoapsis at 289 kilometers, and a paroapsis, a bottom of our orbit, at 90, which is above 70. The magic number is 70 kilometers, is above the atmosphere height of this planet, which is pretty great. I don't have a tremendous amount of fuel left, but I can definitely fly by the moon. So I'm going to set it as my target. And once I set it as my target, you can see the moon. It's very pretty. Once I set it as my target, its orbit lines up as yellow. And I can also see this here, which is the axis of... it's perpendicular to your orbit, so it's normal, and it goes up and down. So you have your ascending node and your descending node. I'm going to spin around to the other side over by my ascending node, where I will want to burn descendingly to even that out. Basically, my orbit is tilted, and I want to level it out because the moon has a perfectly flat orbit around the planet, and I launched off a little off of center, and I'll correct that right here. It'll take entirely too much fuel. That's ridiculous. Forget that. That's stupid. We're just going to go straight for the moon. Alright, so I'm going to aim for this and move. Ooh, there we go. Cool. So I'm going to want to fly by the moon backward, the other direction, so that when it flings me out, it will fling me out in an orbit that is slower than I started, so it's easier to get back to Kerbal. In order to do that, I actually have to burn a bit farther. And that's just about as good as I'm gonna get. That'll be fine. That'll be fine. So, I've got an eye on my stats, my various resources. I'm going to set my Stay Putnik, my little robot probe, to hibernation so that it uses less electric charge. It takes my draw from about a 0.03 to a 0.0, so nothing. So it basically stops using any of my precious electricity because I only have however much I have in my batteries, and I use my electricity to steer, which is very, very important. So I have all of these gauges, and I've got this mystery goo container, but I'm going to save my observation of mystery goo and my material study experiments. Oof, I still have plenty to do here, but I'm going to save that for the moon. Alas. I am in a stable orbit around the planet now, and we're just coming about to where I am lit up, and you can see me, by the sun. This is a solar system in that this is named the sun. And I'm waiting to fling around the other side of this orbit so that I can accelerate here. Whatever you do in your orbit on one side affects your orbit on the opposite side. So I have to sit here at my periapsis, the lowest point of my orbit, and burn in prograde, to burn forwards, to accelerate, until I'm moving forwards quickly enough that my kinetic energy turns into potential energy in, height, distance from the gravitational body. And then it will encounter this other orbital body and orbit around that instead. Should be pretty nifty. I'm still really not very fond of this, so I'm probably going to twist my orbit as well. We'll deal with that later. Will we? Yeah, that's perfect. So, I either can be patient and wait 16 minutes until my vessel orbits around, and I mean, there's plenty of stuff I could be doing. I could pop my pilot, Valentina, out for an extravehicular activity, but she's already been out here and done that, so we've already collected that science. So, instead, I can just scoot and accelerate time. So, my goal in this game of Kerbal space, tentatively, is to unlock as much of the science tree as quickly as possible in career mode, using as little in-game time as possible. I'm trying to do a bit of a space race for myself to unlock as much science as I can in as few in-game days as possible. This save, where I've done a suborbital flight and an orbital flight, and I'm about to do a lunar flight, has only had about maybe 3 or 4 in-game hours. And when I fly to the moon and back, that'll only take maybe about 3 days. So I'm trying to get as much science as fast as I can, for a number of reasons. There are several other planets I can travel to, which are fascinating and exciting in their own way. And I would like to get to them as quickly as possible. Okay, let's call that done. And then we want a descending. Yeah. We want to straighten this out a bit. I'm gonna look over at the moon and see what I might be able to do. Yeah, not too much. None of that's too particularly helpful. And my periapsis is still pretty darn low. It's in the 2000s. I'll be able to tweak that on my way back to get an atmospheric encounter where I will drag through the atmosphere and use up, save what precious fuel I need on my return visit. Anyway, this is, now I will encounter the moon in about a day and 4 hours. It's not great, but not the worst. Only got 300 meters. Yeah. If I wanted to capture myself in orbit around the moon, it would take about 200 and 16 meters per second, which is possible. I have just barely enough fuel to do that. But then I'd only have about 100 meters per second of fuel delta V to get myself back, which is also possible from this type of orbit. So we'll see what we can do. We'll see what we can do. But if I'm going to do anything like that, it would be at a maneuver at my absolute periapsis, the lowest point, so it would be the most efficient burn. And I would want to burn till just barely do I stay captured. And that burn would be over in this direction. Alright. So, Valentina's on a journey. She's got about a day and 4 hours. Normally, I would check out a bunch of other missions that I could do in the meantime. I could go back to the Space Center. She's well and good and on her way to a moon flyby. I could see what other missions I could accept. Aren't particularly any good ones. Although there are a bunch of tourists who all they want to do is just get up into orbit, or not even orbit, a suborbital spaceflight. And I've got this VIP who also wants to get up to a suborbital spaceflight, and that's totally feasible. Totally feasible. And I could get a whole bunch of money for doing that, which would be nifty. Money is always great for buying more rockets. There's not much that can give me great science for a mission. And all of these conduct-focused observational surveys are just garbage. I hate them. So yeah, let's waste some time by ferrying some tourists and a VIP on a suborbital spaceflight. Let's make a tourist vehicle. First things first, we'll want to start with a cockpit. The tourist trap. This will want lots of fuel and basically nothing else. And then some radially mounted fuel tanks, which will themselves have return vessels. Boop. We don't really want those to be obstructed. So let's rotate them around. Doop. That seems even. Yeah. Okay. Each and every single one of these is going to need a little remote control to help it get safely home, because these are going to be piloted by tourists. Silly, silly tourists. And we'll also need lots of battery power to power these steering vessels. We're also going to need engines. We'll want a swivel in the middle and some reliance on the side. Nice, nice, nice. Get some couplings, some solid rocket boosters, and we're getting into business. Get some nice fins. Give us a little bit of semblance of stability. That'll be fine. It'll be fine. It'll be fine. Yeah. Cool. And then for crew, we don't need any pilots. We just want these tourists. Yeah, that's everyone. I'm gonna add more batteries because I'm paranoid. And yeah, let's check out our math. Make sure we're not gonna crash. That's a good thrust weight ratio for my first stage. Oh, and then it has me with this separate stage here, which is not the worst idea. And that gets me, you know, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Oof. Yeah, most of the way into orbit. I don't need to get into orbit at all. I just need to get kind of close. So let's just be lazy, throw these all together, and call it a day. Each of these, oh my goodness, definitely needs parachutes. Lots and lots of parachutes. And we'll probably not separate these at all in the end, but whatever. Let's go for it. Launch. Why don't I have the ability to do SAS? So, this is probably gonna crash, but let's give it a shot. Separated it off into my second stage. I'm gonna risk steering. Oh dear. Oh dear. This is not excellent. I'm spinning quite a lot. But one thing is for sure, I'm on a suborbital spaceflight. I'm just gonna wait till I'm here, blast out whatever I can. It'll take a burn of about a minute, and my peak of this flight is about 2.5 minutes away. I need to really stop spinning. Oh my gosh. So for some reason, even though I've put all of these little remote controlled doohickeys, these little Stay-Putnik robot modules, and they're not in hibernation, and I have battery power, and I have remote control, and I have full probe control, I'm still not able to steer these for some reason. I don't know if it's something I haven't unlocked yet, but that has complicated this maneuver and has made me have to do it mostly by wire. But what's really fun is if you fast forward, like I just did, and speed forward time, you just like freeze in place and your vessel just stops spinning, and that's very, very handy when weird stuff like this happens. So yeah. These check boxes all just checked off because we are now in outer space and we are in a suborbital space flight. We are not in a full orbit, but we're in suborbital space flight. And I'm going to make one more burn that will make my landing a little softer. Right now I would fall pretty much straight back down, and that would mean I wouldn't have very much atmosphere interaction time to slow me down. I'd probably just crash and burn and die, and it'd be terrible. So hopefully I'm going to get a nice smooth arc that'll graze into the atmosphere, which will slow me down gradually, rather than lethally and all at once and on the ground. So it's just about the right time to set my next move, and I'm gonna set my next burn. Fortunately, I'm not having any steering issues now that I'm out of the atmosphere. Most of the problem was with, the atmosphere blowing me around. That's why I put wings on even my upper stage. So let's take a look at what our orbit's gonna look like. We're doing pretty well. We're just gonna keep burning the whole way through. Steer towards my prograde. And we just burned out the engine, and we've reached just about the orbit we thought we would. Great. So about here, we'll come crashing back down into the atmosphere, and I'll set all of these nice parachutes off all at once. It'll be very nice. So we've flown up through the atmosphere and we are just touching back down. It is still very dark, but we're about to start glowing. Because I'm not steering, it will just orient itself with these fins. And yep, it's just pointing itself backwards, actually. Right now, I have no crew control, no remote control, because, we're having parts of this explode. Oh dear. Oh dear. Oh dear. Well, we had some fins explode, which makes sense. They're not really supposed to withstand these kinds of re-entry pressures. But hopefully we'll still have... I have no relays of any kind. So because I have no crew control, I don't think I can actually trigger these... Nope, I cannot trigger. I have no ability to trigger the next stage, which means I cannot initiate these parachutes. A tragedy, an absolute tragedy. So... we have this fun little feature called revert flight. We're gonna go back to vehicle assembly. That was a failure. They were all going to die. We're gonna pretend that didn't happen. Yeah. So, we're gonna want a relay. I have no good solutions here. I could fall closer to... Let's just try this again. Still can't steer, don't care. So this time, my plan is to point quite a bit more straight up and straight back down. Like exactly you're not supposed to do. Because the hopes is that I will stay close to my, home base that has a, connection. In order to do that, I'm just gonna barely exit the atmosphere and then use most of my thrust to slow myself down instead of the atmosphere. Which will be fine. They're tourists. They don't know any better. See? We've already reached outer space. They're all very happy. They don't mind that they're just going right back down exactly where they were. Whee! And now that we're back in the atmosphere, we're just gonna lightly engage retrograde burning. So we're doing a decent job of slowing ourselves down. In addition to the atmosphere. If I wanted to, I could engage my parachutes now. And that's probably not a bad idea. There's the parachutes. We're just gonna keep on floating down towards the water. We're gonna land right in the water right next to the Kerbal space station. This was a much safer flight. We didn't go nearly as far. And we just splashed down. Or touchdown? I think we are actually on ground. We are on shore. Fascinating. I have no idea where we are. But we're going to recover this vessel, take these tourists back home. They will pay us handsomely and continue to fund this crazy space program. I earned some science. I got a whole bunch of money. And everybody came back alive. Yay! Cute. Alright. So, Meanwhile, let's check on Valentina. Ba-doop. Oh, we've got no connection, but full crew control. We've got the same issue as my other vessel had. I have no relay network whatsoever. So my vessel has to have a direct connection, a straight shot view of Kerbal Space Center in order to have a connection by radio, which enables me to do things like steer with this thing, or transmit science, which is also super useful. Because I could log the temperature, here, in space high over Kerbin, and I could do something like transmit it. Ba-doop. Pew, pew, pew. But I can't, because I don't have a connection. I have not traveled in space high yet, so I have not been in a high orbit over Kerbin. Cool. And I have all of this new science that I get to collect. And the next time that I have I'm in view of my Kerbal Space Station, I will be able to transmit science to it. So that's good to know. I don't feel like wasting my mystery goo quite yet. But this is all good review data. I could, here's what I can do. I can come out here and I can take this data, even though she's not a scientist, she can still collect the data and log that, and she'll EVA and take that data and board back in. So now I can, hold on to that. All right. So nothing interesting is going to happen until she can communicate back with the planet. I'll go back to my space center. These tourists paid about, let's see, each of these tourists paid, they don't tell me how much money. It was about 100,000 of the currency each. So that was a reasonable amount of money. That the rocket that I built to get them up there probably cost about that much, and I collected it for 4 different people, so it was well worth the price of admission. There are some tourists who want to orbit around Kerbin. That could be fun. There's 2 of them, and you know what? I've got science. I could... nah. We're just gonna do this moon flyby, my primary mission that I am just itching to get. So I'm gonna sit in this map view and keep moving along, accelerating time. Aha! I have finally moved so that I can see the surface, or the planet, the launch station, basically. I'm going to transmit some science. It'll use up some of my battery power, but I have enough just for doing exactly this. I'm going to review this data and transmit that. The atmospheric data uses a lot more power. It has a lot more data to transmit. But now there's still a little bit of data that I can't transmit that I have to carry back with me, but that is covered by the versions of these sets of data that Valentina stepped out and collected. So that's all awesome. Cool. She's still more than a day away. Let's see if there's any other... Nah, there's no other science I feel like collecting. Let's just move on. So, we're looking at the moon. We can see it getting closer and closer. If we wanted to look in here to see if we could not find the moon, probably be pretty tough. There it is. And so as we're approaching the moon, as we accelerate, we'll see it get closer and closer. Let's turn just a little bit. It's getting... Well, that's about as close as it's gonna get. It's just swung around us, and so it's quite close to Kerbal. If we could find... There it is. So we might be able to get both of them in view. There we go. So we've got, we're orbiting on the past the far side of the moon. We once again are dark with radio signal because the launch pad is on the other, it's the day side right now, and the sun is way over that way. But we are within the orbit of the moon, and that's a pretty nifty thing. If I wanted to add a maneuver here to encapsulate myself, I could do that by pointing this away. Let's see. We've fly by the moon. We did it. Hooray. All right. I'm going to go back to the Space Center and see what the next mission it asks me to do, because it will very likely be something I can achieve with this same vessel. Explore Kerbal? What? Rendezvous 2 vessels in orbit? Oh, that's lame. Alright, well... Alright, I guess we're just going to return, do a flyby. I'm not going to encapsulate my orbit. We'll just fly back and land back in Kerbal. We've got some rescue from orbits. Got some space, some data from space. Well, it's interesting that I have not done a rendezvous yet. It does, you know, help with the idea of doing a relay network, so I could work on that next. If I didn't want to do this, I could just reject it, or wait 3 days. But that's lame. Alright. Well, I am at day 3, hour 0, 55 minutes in. I have achieved my flyby of the moon. I am sad that my next thing is not for, you know, orbiting the moon. It's a very logical next step. I am going to do something silly. I'm going to save my game. I'm going to go into this mission. I'm going to reject this. Am I allowed to reject? Why does it not? This doesn't seem helpful at all. Well, we can try achieving this very quickly, but I don't like the odds of that. I would want to get a docking port so that I could actually, you know, connect those things, whatever they may be. Well, I have achieved a moon flyby. I think that will be what I achieve for this evening, for this save file. I'm gonna go ahead and save this and stop the stream and see if it saved my video or not. Because ultimately my goal is to take this video and I don't know, see if I can make a cool time lapse out of the you know, spaceship design part or the flyby part or any of that stuff. But yeah, thanks for watching. I had fun flying by the moon. Have a great night.